Now, as you said, unfortunately, we have a recession, but that was not something that happened in Colombia for the last 40 years. But at the same time, it's...
Wait.
Yes, okay.
Let's go with the list.
Each of them, okay. Drugs, insurgency, economy recession,
kidnapping.
and definitely, okay, security, that's right, kidnapping, and social injustice. So I think that's something that we need also to talk about, because we need to invest in our people.
So you have on the left the rebels, the guerrillas.
Yes.
Yeah? And on the right, you have the death squads, the paramilitaries. You have a country in recession.
Yes.
You're the biggest supplier of cocaine to the United States, and heroin as well. I mean, what in the world did you want this job for?
Precisely to fight what we are talking. I think that I have a real commitment for many years to really fight these problems. And when you really think that you're doing the right thing and that you have to do the right thing, that's when you get the compromise and you get the commitment to be in this job.
People say,
yes,
Pastrana, he's like Reagan. He has good ideas and he knows in his heart what he wants, and he wants peace. And he's not a detail man. He's got a good staff. But Reagan also had money, good armed forces. You have neither. You don't have money now. Your armed forces are, the rebels have better weapons, I hear, than you have.
No, that's not true. Definitely, I think that since we start government, the first thing we did was how to really reorganize our armed forces, because we were losing the war with the insurgency. And that's why, first of all, we take real actions. Giving or professionalizing our army, because we have an army of about 120,000 men, 50% of them conscripts, okay, or
right.
They're paying their military service, and you cannot put these young men to try to fight with all guerrillas well prepared.
Correct.
So one of the things
with good weapons.
That's right. But one of the things we did was, first of all, retraining our army, professionalizing our army. So we're bringing each year 10,000 new men as professional to our army to fight the insurgency.
In other words, career army people?
That's right. And that's what we want to do. Finally, we're working in that way, and we hope that in 3-4 years, we will have at least 50,000 men, professional armed soldiers.
And what's going to happen?
Weapons, we need weapons. We need to buy helicopters, for example. That's really, you were in Vietnam. Here, the real difference between what is happening in the ground, it's what support you have from the air. And that's why we need now helicopters to fight the insurgency. Now we have one problem: money, insurgency, and drug trafficking. Drug trafficking is financing all the sources of violence in Colombia. As you said before, the insurgency, the vigilantes or the autodefensas, and the common delinquency. So that's why the worst enemy of the peace process is going to be narco-trafficking. And at the same time, the worst and our common enemy of the states, of Europe, of the world, is narco-trafficking, because right now they are the ones that are financing the violence in my country.
The narco-trafficking, I mean, we heard about the Medellin cartel and the Cali cartel. They're out of business now.
Yeah.
Instead, there are who knows how many drug dealers, how many narco-traffickers, maybe even more than there were before. Why is Colombia so dependent upon drugs?
No, we're not dependent. Our economy is not depending on
25 to 30%?
No.
No?
Not more than 1% of GNP is from depending on drugs, and that's not true. Look, Mike, drugs is the #1 business in the world.
Yes.
With oil. Maybe those are the two largest business.
Right.
It's a $500 billion business, and that money is not in Colombia. And that's why, in the case of Colombia, we are not begging for the help of the United States or Europe. We are not asking even aid from the United States. I think that this is not a problem of Colombia. This is a problem of Colombia, of the United States. It's a problem of Europe. And that's why we need the U.S. and the world to invest in this global war. I could say, Mike, that really this is the first world war, because it's the one that is really affecting the whole world. And that's why we need to unite all our efforts to try to defeat our common enemy, that is narco-trafficking. And that's why we're asking the U.S., we're asking Europe, unite our efforts. And I think that we could win this war, but we need the money. We're a poor country, and we're putting a lot of money in this problem. And this is a country that we are poor. Instead of investing in housing, instead of investing in social justice, instead of investing in recreation, in education, in water systems, what is happening? We are investing in war, in this drug war. And to try to avoid drugs to go to the streets of the United States or to the streets of Europe. And that's why we need the support of the world.
Then what is the plan? What is the Pastrana plan to combat the narco-trafficking?
That's what we have called the Colombia plan.
Yeah.
That for the first time, I think, it's a coherence plan. That you have, you may say, we have, first of all, support for our armed forces, the modernization of our armed forces.
Okay, now, let's stop there for a moment.
Yes.
Support for the armed forces from the United States?
And the world. This is not,
I know, but
this
the
is not
United
a US
States is
Colombia
going to
plan.
be the big one.
Yes, we hope, yes.
You're asking for what, 4 billion?
We are asking, okay, the Colombian plan is a $7.5 billion. We, Colombia, we are putting $4 billion.
$4 billion.
$3.5 billion, we are going outside looking for them, searching for them. And we hope to get most of them from the United States.
Correct.
So, we are asking for money for, first of all, modernization of our armed forces, economy, definitely. We need to put the economy back on the track of growth, as what happened before, because there's also a perception that we have problems in the economy because of security problems. And that's not true, Mike. Colombia has been one of the strongest economies in the world.
Until?
1 year ago. That's
exactly.
Right. What happened in the last 4 years, unfortunately for us, the model, the economic model they apply, bring us to recession. And that's why we need to bring back economy, the Colombian economy back on the track.
Look, the last president, Samper, he spent so much money that he didn't have, I am told. He had due bills out with everybody.
That's the fiscal deficit, 5.3% of GNP. Unemployment over 16%.
20% is the latest I hear.
That's right. When we got in power, it was 16%. So now it's 20%. So that's why we need to put all our efforts in reactivation of our economy, that at the same time is jobs, and at the same time it will bring people out of this illegal business that is growing of coca or growing of poppy, and that's why we need money also to invest in these areas.
You give them a nice name. It's called insurgency. The fact of the matter
is... A guerrilla, yes.
These are guerrillas.
Yes, guerrillas.
And these guerrillas are making a fortune. Probably $500 million protecting the narco-traffickers, yes? And then they're making a lot of money more from kidnapping and extortion. So they're making $1 billion, perhaps, a year. 900
Okay,
million.
the figure we have, Mike, is the business could be between $1 to $2 million a day.
Okay, so it's
all right, more or less.
$1 to $2 million a day. So it comes to multiply by 360.
Yeah, it's about $400 million.
Why in the dickens, then, would they want to make peace with you? They're living happily in a part of the country. They have 40% of the territory of your country, not of the population, but of the territory. They are they're making, as I say, perhaps close to $1 billion. So they're going to sit down with Andrés Pastrana and say, I'm going to, come, let's make peace. Okay. And we'll bankrupt ourselves in the process.
I think your question, like three things that could be good for the people to know. First of all, they don't control 40% of the territory of Colombia. That's not true. They have presence in 40% of the territory.
Okay.
Explain. What happened is, for example, they go and attack a town and go out of the town.
They go attack a town, rob the bank.
Back to the jungle.
And back to the jungle. Yeah.
That's not controlling. That's, attacking. So presence. They have presence in 40% of the country. That's true.
Just like the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese had in Vietnam.
That's right. Secondly, I'm not going to be the speaker for the FARC. But if you ask me why these guys want to go into a peace process, because I think that they want to go into a democratic process in our country. And we have experience. Even the FARC, they decide about 8 years ago. Even they create their own movement called the UP, the Unión Patriótica, unfortunately. Most of them were killed. More than 4,000 men in this democratic party were killed by the rightist groups of this country. So now...
By the what?
The rightist groups, the right groups.
The paramilitaries.
Or at that time, the right groups, political group, at that time, 8 years ago. I think that they want to go into a democratic process. I think that
What leads you to believe that?
Because they've said it. They said it, we want, even they said, we want to govern this country. That's why if they go through a democratic process, that's good for us. Why not? We have good experiences in Colombia. Even when I was member of the Senate, the people behind me, all of them were former guerrillas. And they were acting in a democratic process in the Congress, and I think that was very good for the country. And
How long ago was this?
In 1991. M19 and EPL at that time decided to go into a peace process. And they got even the largest number of members of the Constitutional Assembly of Colombia.
So and what happened?
No, they're there, in democracy.
So they're
working.
So what do they think of the FARC? Even down in the south.
They think that they should go also into a peace process, and that's why that's why I think this is the purpose that the FARC is trying to get into peace.
FARC stands for?
Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias de Colombia.
Armed Forces of...
Revolutionary of Colombia. That's the significance of the FARC.
Is it true, by the way, that they have ground-to-air missiles now?
We don't have the evidence. We've been after all this type of information about the airplanes, the Soviet airplanes that was here, some of the informants that we have, all this information we shared with the U.S., we shared with our friends in Europe, but right now we don't have the evidence that they have the ground-to-air missiles.
Their weapons, the guerrillas, the insurgents, are as good or better than your own. And everybody acknowledges that.
Okay, they have, I think no, we have definitely, I think that we have better arms, we have a better and well-trained army. We have difference, for example, in the air, on rivers, a big difference in boats and airplanes, helicopters. And that's why we're asking to buy more helicopters, because that's one of the real differences in what happened in this guerrilla warfare. And that's why in this counterinsurgency, the air arms are very important for us. And we show it. In the last year, in all the attacks of the FARC with our Colombian Air Force, we have won most of the attacks. I think that in the last year, we have hit them very hard. Unfortunately, because I've said that unfortunately in the sense that I said I want to do peace in peace and not peace in war. And they are doing peace in war. And sometimes people don't understand what is happening.
Up in New York, as I was about to leave, people say, you're going where? Colombia. Colombia? Well, watch out. Be careful. I arrive here in Bogota. The fellow from the embassy, the U.S. embassy, said, what are you doing here? It's dangerous. Truly. What happened? Colombia used to be coffee. Colombia today is drugs, disaster, death. I mean, seriously, this is the perception, certainly in the United States.
Definitely. I cannot say that that's not true. Unfortunately, that's what the people know about Colombia. But you have to think something, Mike, that is very important for us. We are fighting the largest criminal organization in the world. And sometimes I put the U.S. example. What happened in the 30s? What happened in Chicago with Al Capone? What is happening today even with the organized crime or the mafia in the United States? Still Chicago has sometimes the stigma of what happened in the 30s. The only one, really. And you know, what I'm trying to say is that you yourselves, even inside the United States, know how difficult it is to fight these criminal organizations. And in the case of Colombia, sometimes I think there's a lot of injustice in what's happening in this country. We were putting the deads, the people. We have sacrificed our best journalists, politicians, army, policemen. We have put they have died in this war. And sometimes people are saying, what is Colombia doing? I was kidnapped. I suffer myself the violence of drugs.
I know.
My family.
I know.
And we are committed in this fight. But that's why we need the support of the world, because this is a global war. This is not a Colombian war. And that's why we need to understand the people in the United States, that we're putting money, that we're putting resources that we don't have, Mike.
Why Colombia? Why did drugs take over Colombia?
Maybe, unfortunately, because our geographic, Colombia is located in the northern part of South America. Mm-hmm. So it's the best place to really to create the commerce. If you want to do commerce, if you want to export, Colombia is the best place to invest, definitely. And that's why you have the United States from Bogota, even from the coast, is less than 2.5 hours. The U.S. from the coast of Colombia. From the city of Bogota, it's 3 hours. If you go to South America, you could go always through Colombia, and that's why Colombia is a strategic point geographically. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, what happened is that in the case of Colombia, these guys, very intelligent people, got involved in this business. And now we have, not only because Colombia was not a country in which we grew coca or heroin or poppy fields. We didn't have that. Right. Unfortunately, they're coming to Colombia, to our jungles, destroying our environment. But we've been doing the job, and we've been really fighting, and that's why I think we need the support of the world. And that's why the people need to understand, as you said, starting the interview, what happened in Colombia, you will know that it will respond also in the United States. In this global world now, what happened here, it will have an impact on the United States.
When you go north and you talk to President Clinton and you talk to Congressman Burton and Ben Gilman and so forth, and I wish you'd tell me why Clinton on the one side and Burton and Gilman on the other side are at each other's throats, so to speak. When you go there, do you say, hey, fellas, why don't you do something up in the United States about
demand?
About demand.
That's right.
What do you tell them?
Always, I said to them, look, even if we win this war in Colombia, someone is going to supply the United States if you don't control demand in the United States. Someone. Mm-hmm. So you need to do a better job in the United States.
And what do they say to you?
That they are committed in doing that they want to put more money, that they want to get more money invested in drug prevention, drug education. But I think they need
famous last words.
Yes.
We've heard them over
That's right.
and over.
I agree with you.
And forgive me, but as an old man, and I've heard these words
for many years.
As long as there is money in drugs, and as long as there is the desire on the part of Americans, North Americans, I'm a pessimist. You're an optimist, I know. Yes. You are like Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan used to say that he'd look through hopefully through a pile of horse manure because he knew that there was a pony in there someplace.
Yes,
and the same thing is true with you.
That's good.
How come?
You imagine if I was pessimistic?
Yeah.
But look, Mike, I think that's why we need to create this conscience that this is a problem in which all of us, we need to be involved. Mm. First of all, we cannot allow to let this problem in the United States to be Democrat or Republican. I think that could be the #1 triumph of drug lords in Colombia. If they really help dividing the U.S. in how they can help Colombia or other countries in fight drugs, that will be the #1 winning or triumph of drug lords. And that's why we are selling a bipartisan policy. Republicans and Democrats, they need to get commitment in the fight against drugs. You have two different points of views. Republicans basically are concentrated in why don't we use more of the military side, eradication, fumigation. Democrats, they want alternative development. They think that's part of the big solution is going to be investing in these areas. I think that we need both of these, and
Sure.
and that's why we create this, what we call the Plan Colombia, and that's why we're asking. And we have very good friends in the Republican side, Speaker Huster, Senator Coverdale, DeWine, in the Democrats also, very committed. Chris Dodd, you will have people like Delahunt, like Gephardt, saying we need to help. And that's why we went to the USA and to President Clinton for the first time, Democrats and Republicans were committed in helping Colombia. If you remember letters of Speaker Huster, of Senator Trent Lott saying to Clinton, you need to help Colombia, and we're willing to help Colombia. And Gephardt and Degerson saying, we need to help Colombia also. And that's why we said, okay, if you're willing to do that, why don't we, if you're really committed in helping Colombia, here is a plan. Help us. But I think that we need to sell that the drug problem is not Republican or Democrat. It's American, it's Colombian, it's the whole world, and that's why we need to invest in it.
Later on today, I understand I have been granted permission to accompany you. Well, you're going to get 6 Black Hawk helicopters today?
Yes, 6 Black Hawk, and I think there's going to be like 25 UH-1N, I think it's is the technical name.
Who are you getting them from?
This is aid directly from the U.S. Congress. I think there were $280 million involved in this new buying of helicopters.
This is from the Republicans, in effect. You know it is.
From the United States, yes.
Come on, it's Republicans.
But that's only for the fight on drugs. That's only to fighting drugs.
Yeah.
No?
Just for drugs.
Drugs, just for drugs.
And you don't want American troops down here?
No, definitely no.
Absolutely not.
Mike, while I am president of Colombia, there's not going to be any U.S. intervention. Because even the United States doesn't want it. I don't know why they create all this phantom of intervention in Colombia.
But your own citizens here in Colombia want it. The polls say 50 to 60% of Colombians want U.S. troops down here.
You have to, non-Colombians, they change so many times what happened inside, I imagine the same in the United States. You know Colombia. You were in Vietnam, in the fight of Vietnam. If you see the geographic of this country,
yes.
Oh my God, it's fighting in this country is very, very difficult. You know, we have 3 mountain chains.
I know.
1,300 square kilometers, 1,300,000 square kilometers. This is a huge country. And what's happening here is that people of Colombia, I don't think that they want intervention. They don't want more war. They want peace. They want no more violence. And that's why I've said I was elected in a platform to bring peace to Colombia. And that's why people elect Andrés Pastrana. That's why they elect me. They give me a mandate saying you have to work and try to achieve peace.
Okay.
And that's the result. You saw people on the streets 2 weeks ago, 12 million Colombians saying no más, no more violence, no more kidnapping. That's what we Colombians want, peace. And that's the message we are sending to the FARC, we are sending to the ELN, to the vigilantes, to the autodefensas. We don't want more violence in Colombia.
Cut, reload. Excelente. Now, if the United States doesn't give you the billions that you want,
yes,
what happens to Colombia?
We will be committed in the fight on drugs, and we need to invest, and that's what we're doing. For example, even that we don't have now the resources, we are trying to invest in these areas in which we have poppy and coca, give alternative development products to our peasants. Colombia is such a rich country that we have the alternative to go out from drugs, but definitely we will be in trouble. We don't have the help of the U.S. and the help of Europe, because we don't have all the resources to work as fast as we want in these areas. What happened, look Mike, what happened, for example, Colombia. As you said, Colombia was known by coffee. We have such amount of coffee areas in Colombia. Unfortunately, we've been decreasing these areas because all the market, what happened to the price, what's happening with coffee. So many of these people that were coffee growers or even people that went to pick up coffee in these areas now are picking up coca leaves.
Sure.
So that's why we try to bring them back to these legal crops, as I said, because our peasants, they don't want to be in out of law. They want their sons to be educated, and they want a house to live in the farm, and they don't want to be
They'll
in
be
the middle
making
of the
more
jungle.
money with illegal drug crops than they will with all the other.
No, you know that's the other day. For example, I went to a poppy field to eradication. We fumigate these fields, and this guy suddenly saw the president of Colombia. Said, I think it was the first and the last time that he's going to see the president.
Yeah.
This guy is coming and fumigating my coca cultivation, and he's not giving any alternative to me.
Right.
And I said, are you willing to go back and cultivate coca? He said, I don't want. Give me money, and I will put here tomatoes. This is a great land for agriculture. Unfortunately,
Tomatoes are going to compete with
no,
drugs?
No, these guys, I'm telling the story, this guy.
Okay.
What's going to compete with drugs? You want to talk what? Palm oil, for example. This is a very good product for Colombia. Colombia is very competitive in palm oil. And it's amazing that the largest part of Colombia, that is called the Magdalena Medio, that is called the Magdalena River Canyon, it's the best land, for example, for cultivation palm oil. After 3 years or 4 years, when palm oil production is going forward, a peasant could earn between $1,000 to $2,000 a month. That's alternative development. Even more than what happened with drug. What happened with drug is that he has 1 or 2 crops a year. This guy come here, pay you $1,000 or $2,000, and leaves. And what happened the rest of the year? So they want to go. It's not easy, because you have to identify 2 things. The large crops in Colombia, the 1,000, 2,000, those are crops earned really by drug lords. And the 1 or 2 hectares, that it's the peasants trying to get some way of earning their own life.
Look, last January, you went to the so-called demilitarized zone.
Yes.
Your demilitarized zone that they took over. Thank you very much, Mr. President. You gave us a demilitarized zone, and now we move in here and take charge of it. But you went there to kick off negotiations with the rebels, the guerrillas. But the leader of the rebels failed to show. You sat there on the stage. We have pictures of it.
Yes.
Waiting and waiting and waiting until you finally had to realize that he wasn't coming.
Yes.
Humiliating?
No.
No?
We start dialogue that day. It didn't matter that Marulanda was there, but no. Results was that we start dialogue with
whom?
With the FARC.
His
What
leader,
happened?
their leader wouldn't come and sit with you.
Yeah.
But you started a dialogue. Well, with the
That
vice
finished?
president?
No. There's something that you have to understand. What happened there? First of all, demilitarized zone. They are not controlling the DZM. We know that we have problems. I accept it. We have I said it to Marulanda when I went to talk to him on May, the second time.
They called you naive. They called you, not they, I mean, people in Colombia called you naive and weak. And can you imagine he's giving them this land as a lure to get them to sit down?
Mike, if you want to do peace, you have to take risks. And this is a Colombian process done by Colombians. I think that we could take experiences of different peace processes, and you more than everybody know how difficult it is to achieve peace. And this is something that is not, you cannot achieve peace one day after another. You have to build peace. And I think that you have to take risk if you want to do peace. And what happened with the DCM, they said, why we create the DCM? And this is something I want to be very short, because maybe a lot of people in the U.S. will never understand what is it. We create a territory. We create an environment in which guerrilla and government, we could sit and start dialogues.
DMZ, demilitarized zone.
Demilitarized, and see if we could achieve an agenda and start a negotiation process.
This was last January.
That's right. We have, since from 7th of January to the 7th of May, to start this dialogue, to see if we could agree on an agenda, and then if we agree on an agenda, we will start negotiation. Otherwise, we will break our conversation and go back to war.
Okay.
So from the 7th of January, you have to see Marulanda. He said, I was not there because I knew that there was going to be a plan to kill the president and myself. But he never told me. He stayed there. I was sitting there, and he never told me that. They were controlling the zone.
Yeah.
Even I was so confident on what is going to happen, I took my son with me. You imagine I was going to take my family if I thought that something was going to happen to me, to the president, or the ministers, or to all the ambassadors that were there, or the personalities of Colombia were there? No. But you have to see that Marulanda, he's a man that he has been in the jungle for 40 years.
40?
40 years. I think that also he was very impressed to see all the media there, to see that everybody was going to be there. He's a real Colombian. And I think that maybe he said, I don't want to be there. But the important thing, Mike, was that I was there, we signed, and we create what we call the dialogue commissions, and we start the process.
Okay,
I think
what's
that's
happened
the most
since?
important thing.
What's happened since?
That we agree on an agenda of 12 points,
right,
and that we start negotiation. It never happened in this country. 40 years. We need 40 years to achieve an agenda and a peace process.
Okay.
And now we're working on it.
Now you're working, you are negotiating already?
Yes, already. We
Really?
start 2 weeks ago, even this last weekend, because you have 2 scenarios in the peace process. The negotiators, 5 of the government, 5 of the guerrillas. And we have created what we call the thematic commissions, that these people are in charge of studying the points that are going to be discussed in the negotiation table. We want to do forums in the different states of Colombia.
Forums?
Forums, inviting the people to discuss. For example, agrarian reform. We want to do a forum in one of the states of Colombia. Everybody can go there and speak. The guerrilla is going to be there, the government is going to be there, but the civil society is going to be there. And I think that's very important because they will know directly by the people what the Colombian people want.
Well, this is beginning to develop now. Tell me this. You were elected a year ago.
Yes.
And your popularity was here. It is a year later, and your popularity is here.
Yes.
Way down, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
you smile. You were an optimist, and very few politicians would.
No, Mike, I think that...
Why?
Why? Okay. I know that I have to take unpopular decisions, but I know are the right things to do. If I want to be a populist, if I want to do a populism politics in the country, it's very easy for you. But I have a responsibility. I was elected to take decisions, and sometimes these are unpopular decisions. And I know that maybe the figures of my polls are coming down. But I said that this is like in the school. Judge me at the end of the term. I will finish the 7th of August of the year 2002, and everybody's going to say, he failed or he did a good job. Because really, I don't govern by the polls, because that's very difficult. And I think that sometimes you have to take very tough decisions. And you know that the polls could be against you, but at the end, you know that you take the right decision. And that's why I hope that people will judge Andrés Pastrana by the end of the year 2002. Something that is very important, Mike. I don't take decisions looking for a re-election, because I can never be re-elected in this country. When I finish my term on the year 2002, out. I can never come back to this job. So I'm not thinking in what's going to be good for me in 3 years. I'm looking what is going to be good for the country in the next 3 years. And that's why I hope to be judged by the end of my term.
You ran for president in 1994.
1994.
And lost, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And left the country. Left the country. Why? For your personal safety.
First was personal safety. Secondly, I think it was the time of giving a space, an air to my career. I lost with one of the largest voting in the history of the world, of Colombia.
But why should a presidential candidate who loses here in Colombia have to, for his own personal safety,
Fly away.
leave the country? in this democratic...
Yes. No, I take my own decision. It was my own decision to go out and try to do something different. You know what happened in the country.
I know what happened.
I make some denounces of what happened in the last political campaign.
What you did was, you said that the former president, Samper, in effect, was a crook. Which he was.
Yeah, the money of drugs came into his campaign.
Okay, so you said it, and you knew darn well that if you hung around having lost, they'd probably shoot you.
Maybe. But my decision was, okay, I'm going to give this man a space to open, to work, and try to do something for myself. And try thinking 4 years later that it was not easy. You know, people, as you know, were against my name, against what happened to Andrés. Something like when I started running for president in the year 1998, on February, an election were held on May, the first one. On February, my negative was 75%.
Really?
75%. Nobody said, this guy's crazy. 75% of negative image. He will never be president of Colombia. And now we're president. I think that's something I think that people realize. They know that something, people in Colombia know what I said, I speak with the truth. I think that's very important for the people. And they know that's something that they can count on Andrés Pastrana.
Tell me this, you were kidnapped. When?
Yes. When I was running for mayor of Bogota in the year 1988.
You were kidnapped?
I was kidnapped.
Was your father president of...
No, he was the leader of the opposition. What happened, Mike, was that since 1982, I was threatened, my life was threatened by Pablo Escobar. Because we decided...
Since 82?
Since 1982. Because as a journalist, we put a lot of pressures on the drug cartels. Even we create a group of 5 or 6 journalists in this country, the highest ranked journalists, to make all the denounces on what happened with the cartels. We were the first one to show the faces, the business of the Cali and the Medellin cartel. With some French journalists, we decided, okay, we were going to do the same stories for TV, radio, and newspaper. The same one. Yeah. Exactly the same. And one day in a week, every week, we will put the same day the story on TV, on radio, and newspaper. Even we did the first strike in the media in Colombia. One day, we decided there was not going to be TV, radio, newspapers, because they killed Guillermo Cano, the editor of El Spectator. So we said, one day we were going to leave Colombia without any type of media. And we start this fight against the drug cartels. And that's why, at the end, I was kidnapped by them.
You were kidnapped effectively by Pablo Escobar's people. Escobar's.
Yes.
Let me take the question. You were kidnapped effectively by Pablo Escobar's people. Yes.
Yes, he's in jail right now. But the whole operation was done by both cartels.
Okay.
But effectively.
Tell me what happened.
Short, long. No, very short. Okay. No, what happened was they've been after me for the last 8 months, and I know how to take care of myself, you know. Yeah. And at the end, they decided to take me out of my office, my political headquarters. You imagine how crazy they were.
Yeah.
Going 7 o'clock at night. That is when you have more people in your political headquarters, and they went inside the headquarters into my office, put a gun in my head and said, you are kidnapped by the M19 guerrilla movement. They didn't say I was kidnapped by drug lords. So they took me out. This is the human reaction. You never know how you're going to react when you're in danger. And I was very calm. I said to the people in my office, be calm. They said, in 1 hour he will be back. So I said, please stay quiet. I went out of my office. Everybody was, you know, you saw their faces. And I said, be calm. In 1 hour, I'll be back. Even, I remember that Jaime Garzón, that was shoot some weeks ago in Colombia. Remember this journalist and this man that has been involved in TV for many years. He was working for me, and he started saying to the guy, "Hey, look, guys, I'm in charge of the of the candidate, you need to take me. And they killed him at that time. They
Really?
were very nervous. They were very nervous. They took
Oh, I
me
thought
out.
that he probably wanted a camera to
No,
watch.
no.
To
He
watch
was not.
Pastrana.
Yes, he was not in the business. He was helping in my campaign.
Yeah.
But so they put me in a car. 3 or 4 cars went different sides. Then they took me to a street that was a street with any light, and they changed me to another car, and they put me in the trunk of the other car. So there I start by saying, how I'm going to breathe. I'm going to be in the trunk of this car, and how I am going to breathe here. Where
a little claustrophobia sets
a little claustrophobia. But the problem, Mike, was that they put me with one of my kidnappers in the trunk of the car.
Two of you in the trunk?
That's right. So I was, what I'm going to do? This guy with a UC machine on my head, and I was trying to breathe, and these guys start, going all over the city very, very fast. You could feel that, and at the end they took me to a farm, like 1 hour out and a half.
How long did they hold you?
For 1 week.
But
from there they took me to Medellin next day. I sleep there, and that's where I find out that I was in the hand of the drug lords, because when I arrived to this place, I was handcuffed. They put handcuffed when they took me out of the office. So I said to them, after some questions, I start using my journalism. I start saying, who are you? Oh, we are the M19. Why you kidnap me? No, because we want to send a message to the government. And he said to me, tomorrow, and I said, you said that you were going to give me in 1 hour back to my family. What's going to happen? No, you're going to see your boss tomorrow. And where is the boss? No, he's outside from Bogota. And how are you going to take me there? By helicopter. So immediately I said, helicopter. And I said, helicopter. Guerrillas, do you have helicopters? Yes, we stole them from the drug lords. You stole them from the drug lords. Okay. So I put like an exam to them. I said, I want to go to the bathroom. I said, okay. So he opened one handcuff. One of them went first. Then I went to the bathroom and another one. So there were 3 of us in the bathroom. So I said, this is not guerrilla. This is drugs. Because they're taking care of me.
Yeah.
If they were guerrilla, they said, look, the bathroom is on the right hand, go on their back.
How much did it cost?
In my life or in...
In your life, a great deal.
Yes.
But money?
They don't need money. That was I think, Mike, this was the first political kidnap in this country.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't want money. What happened was that...
the drug people don't need money.
That's right. So that was the big problem. So what they want at that time, the only thing these people fear is extradition. And that's why they create what they call the extraditables. And that's why what happened was that the president at that time, President Barco, the Constitutional Court decided that the extradition treaty between Colombia and the United States was not legal. So it was against the Constitution. So Barco decided to apply a different law so that he could extradite these people. And that's why they kidnapped me, to try to put pressure to the government against extradition.
Despite all, you seem to enjoy this job, the job you call the worst in the world.
Yes. Yeah, I think that, more than enjoying, I think that there are so many things to do. And we have such a nice people in this country, and you know that you could do so many things for them that when you believe something, and I think that I prepared for governing Colombia, to be president of Colombia for many years, and that's why I think that you have to enjoy what you're doing, even all the difficulties. Every day that you get up here in bed, see what's going to happen in Colombia, because you have so many things, but at the same time there are so many things to do.
You prepared because your father was president?
Yeah, but I always decided he has his life. You know, Mike, I was never appointed for a public post. Never. All my career, I decided to go by voting. I went to the city council. I was elected the first mayor of Bogota by popular election. In the year 1985, President Betancourt at that time decided, once he called me and said, Andres, I want you to be the mayor of Bogota. I said no. Because before the mayor of Bogota was appointed by the president, and he said, it's a nice chance. You know, Pope is coming. He's going to be here in the month of March, so you have the Pope and you have money to do works. And I said, no, the day I want to be mayor of Bogota, I want to be elected mayor of Bogota. And then I decided to run for the Senate, and I was elected for the Senate. And then I decided to run for president, and I was elected, once defeated, and then I was elected.
You were also, along the way, the Dan Rather of Colombia, the anchorman.
Yes, I was in the media for some years, and I enjoy it, and I miss it very much. And even we got all the awards, the King of Spain Award and the Colombian Award from the Simón Bolívar. And I really enjoyed it, and I think it gave me a real opportunity also to know the country.
Question, which seems small, but your army,
yes,
you're building a professional army now.
Yes.
It is my understanding that anyone who joins the army, correct me if I'm wrong, who has a high school diploma is exempt from combat?
Yes, by law.
Why?
By law, because what happened is that...
Sounds like rich men's sons are in the army.
Yes.
Poor men's sons who don't go to high school, they fight.
No, today what happened is, before I think happened that, now what happened is that everybody has a high school diploma. The problem is that Mike is sending young people to fight professional guerrillas. And that's why we have this problem, because, as I said to you before, we have 120,000 men, and about 50,000 men are conscript, or 60,000, that finish their high school, so they have to go to the army. And you imagine this from public school or private school, going out from high school, getting a training, 2 weeks training, unarmed, and going to fight these 40 years well-trained guerrillas. So that's why the laws here in Colombia said, the court said here, you cannot send these people to fight. You put them to do social service and do things. And that's why, Mike, we're changing.
But if you are 15 or 16 or 17 years old and you haven't been to high school, then they can be cannon fodder.
Yes, some of them. But also, what we're doing is that we are trying not to send them to war. That's why we're putting all the efforts in trying to get professional soldiers. That's what we're doing. And we hope to get, at the end of my term, these 50, 60,000 people, professional soldiers. And the conscript will be working on social things.
Talking about social things, how much do we have on this?
5 left.
5 left. You talk about your army, but you haven't talked about the paramilitaries. It is my understanding that this still goes on.
Yes.
That the army says, look, we are now paying more attention to human rights. We are learning about human rights in the Colombian army. But if we don't like somebody and we want to get rid of them, we say to the paramilitaries, you get rid of them for us. And this is what happens. And I've asked the question here in Bogota, and they say, yes, that's common knowledge.
But since we started our term, that was one of the things that we are putting a lot of pressure, fighting everybody that it's out of law. Call them autodefensas or vigilantes or paramilitares or insurgents, guerrilla, however you want. And I think now there's a commitment, a real commitment of the militaries. In fact, even last week we have a big fight with paramilitaries in some of the regions. It's very difficult because sometimes what happens is that the paramilitaries never start combats with the army. They refuse to combat with the army. They prefer to go away. So sometimes it's very difficult to really have a direct touch with the paramilitaries. So that's why even we have done real pressure on them. They said that the headquarters of the paramilitaries is located in what we call in Colombia the Nudo de Paramillo, in north region of Colombia. About 6 months ago, we sent a real big operation to the Nudo de Paramillo to fight the paramilitaries. And I think that now the army is really committed in this fight, not only against paramilitaries or vigilantes, but also with the FARC.
Do your military and the paramilitaries who were employed by the landowners, by
drugs lords, also.
Okay. Does your army and the paramilitaries never go after the guerrillas together?
No, I don't think so. Really, I don't think so, Mike. Really, no. I think that...
Why not?
What happened? No, because they are out of our constitution, out of the law, and the rights, and what the military should do is combat the vigilantes the same as the insurgency, and even you could see that my new chief of staffs that I appointed when in my inauguration,
right.
It's a complete new one, new generals in the Army or in the Navy or the Air Force, and I think that they have been doing a really good job inside the Army also regarding human rights and regarding protection and education of human rights, and also in the way, in a sense, fighting the paramilitaries. They're doing a good job.
How much control do you, as president, really have over the military?
Oh, yes. They are respectful of the president, respectful of the Constitution. You see it. We have some problems because there have been some discussion on what happened with the cupola, but because, and that's something that people, when I was in my inauguration day, they said, President Pastrana has to seize like 8 generals before going to General Tapia, that right now he's the chief commander of the armed forces.
Mm.
So people thought, that's a big movement, changing 8 generals in Colombia, but now I think they have the real confidence first of the people of Colombia, and now from outside, and they respect them, and I think that they have done a very good job. But one good thing, and the most important thing of our members of the armed forces and our militaries, is that they're very respectful and of our democratic system and of our constitution.
You know who has the best reputation of all? Are your Colombian National Police?
Yes. Yes, why? Because they did a good job. What happened with Serrano, with General Serrano, when he went to the police as chief commander of the police, they decided to have a real good police. Fighting corruption. Police was the institution, the worst institution in Colombia. People thought that police, if you see the polls, they don't want to know about a police.
Right.
And now I think that we have an example, not only in Colombia, in the world, of the police. And that's why
And Serrano is one of the most popular men in Colombia.
I think it's now with Montoya, with our champion, race car champion. No?
Yeah.
And he's very popular. But why? Because he fight corruption, and he said, we want a real police in Colombia. And that's why I think that he has done such a good job, and he has eradicated corruption from the police. He has very good support from the United States.
Yep.
You may say the Republicans, but okay, from the U.S. and he has shown results, good results. The last one, the Millennium Operation, I think that operation, Mike, is very important because it took more than a year to go after the 40 these leaders of the cartels in Colombia, in Mexico, and Ecuador, with no one leak in 1 year. I think shows how well and how good our intelligence service in the police is doing, avoiding one leak. Everybody was captured in this Millennium Operation.
Enough stop, I'm told.
Thank you very much.
The time has come. The time has come.
That was difficult.
Of course, yes. Okay, start again.
I'll ask again. That must have been. What did you think had happened?
Well, when Andres was kidnapped, it was very difficult for me because I was in a meeting. I came into my car, I put the radio on, and I heard it on the radio. So that was my first shocking experience. And then I had to continue my life and his life at the same time. So for me, it was very difficult, and God gave me strength from where I never knew I had that strength and that personality, because I had to continue his campaign. I had to continue going to different towns. I had to.
You began to make speeches, no?
Yes, my first speech when he was kidnapped. So it was very difficult because I had to have a lot of strength not to cry, because I was singing in all the posters and everybody singing his song of the campaign song, and I had to inaugurate one of his young, how do you say?
Headquarters.
Yes, I had to inaugurate his young headquarters for the first time, and that was my first speech while he was kidnapped. So it was very difficult. But at the same time, I said I have to be strong. Maybe he's watching TV, maybe he's seeing me act, and I think that helped you a lot, no?
That's right.
Did you see it?
Yes, yes.
Did you?
See, but sometimes I had one TV and radio, and I don't know if that's good or bad, because you could see, what it was not saying, see her talking, giving the speech, my family, my sons. So sometimes it's difficult because you are living inside, and I said
Powerless.
yes,
powerless.
yes, and I think that as an experience, I said when I went outside, that's why I think the kidnap is the worst crime that could happen to anybody, because you lose the two most important things of your life. That is first your family and your liberty, your freedom.
Yeah.
So,
But you're still alive.
oh, that's right.
And suffering.
That's right.
But I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that before the kidnapping you treated her like a debutante, like a Barbie doll, like a, she was just a decoration.
No,
and
no.
a beautiful decoration. And then all of a sudden, I'm told, if I may, that this made you take things a lot more seriously in your country.
Well, yes, in my country, in my personality, I felt that I matured a lot, that I was not going to worry, with little things, that we had to live day by day as if it was going to be the last one, every day I know, I'm a little bit.
Don't you worry about it. You're doing
Okay,
just...
let me continue.
Yes.
I matured a lot with his kidnapping. I did not keep on worrying for so many little things. And for me, it was very important also because I decided to live every day like if it was the last day. You never know when you have your family
Of course.
taken away, like at this time. For my children, it was very difficult. Santiago, he was 4 years old. I had to explain him what had happened. So I had to tell him that some people had taken his father. When you know these people, they make you an invitation. When they take you away without knowing somebody, it's a kidnap, and he's going to be there in the mountain as long as they send a message for President Barco, because they have to write a long, long letter for President Barco, and then he'll come with this letter back home. So we'll never know when he's going to be. So, but it was very difficult. But at the same time, I had to live it twice, with my father also.
Well, that's what I understood, that your father was kidnapped and murdered?
And murdered. We discovered my father 2 years after he was kidnapped.
Oh, my.
So it was 2 years of a very, very big suffering and heart pain, and it was very hard. So.
Who kidnapped your father and why?
Well, my father, it was not like my husband. My husband, he was a political kidnapping. My father was common delinquency, and we had conversations with him during 6 months. We received 2 letters from him, and then we start knowing about him. So that was the worst, because when you know he's alive and they're asking for money or whatever, well, you have hope. But I tell everybody, hope is the last thing you have to lose, because I thought I was a widow when my husband was kidnapped. And one week after he was kidnapped, I put on the radio and I heard about the kidnapping of the Attorney General. And it was funny because, I got very sad. I said they're going to have 2 people, from the 2 parties. Mm-hmm. But I decided to open my closet to get ready and go and work in a beautiful social program that we did during the mayor's office of Andrés, was to give breakfast to children. Mm-hmm. And when I opened my closet, I saw a green dress, and I said, green is the color of hope. Let's put it on. And that day, he returned home.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Did you want him to be president?
Well, when I got married, I thought he was going to be important in his life, because since he was young, he was doing many things for this country. But I didn't think he was going to be important so soon in his life, so young. And I remember when he was campaigning for his mayor office, I told him once, Andrés, don't you think you're very young? He was 32. He got to his mayor office at 33. Why don't you wait? Let's wait until we raise a little bit these children, and you have all your life to be mayor. And he says, no, I don't have all my life. This is my moment. If I don't take it, I will lose it, and this is it. Mm-hmm. So since then, I decided not to tell him to run or to stop running.
Let me stop things for just a second. The interview part's going.
God. So we're going. We are rolling. Is it worth it? No. Look, he was elected a year ago, hugely popular. Now his popularity is down there. Is that hard for you? Honest.
Well, of course it is hard, you know, but Colombian people, after 4 years of a very difficult government, they had a big, big hope in Andrés. They had a big hope also in myself and in everything what was going to happen to the country. But people outside, maybe they don't realize the tough work you have here inside governing. I think it's worth it. Somebody that could take the power had to be somebody that really want to help in social problems, in economy, in peace, somebody honest. And I think you should, or people should make a test or give a note, let's say, an average note to a governor when he finishes at the end of the government, not at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I think I still have a lot of hope that what we're doing is going to be for the best sake of the country. My heart, I feel peace is coming sooner or later to this country. The fact of starting the negotiations or sitting down into the table with the guerrillas, it's a big, big task and a big fact. And it is worth it. And we're doing many, many good things for poor people, and I think that's the most important thing.
I take it from what you say that perhaps you play Hillary to his Bill.
Well, Hillary, for me, she's a very intelligent woman.
Yes.
I met her when in October, when we had the official state visit. And it's incredible. 1 year after I saw her, and she still remembers the programs that I spoke to her. She said, we were speaking about several social programs, and she said, well, and how's your train program, and how's your children program,
really?
And how's everything going? And it's incredible because she has the world in her mind, no? Because she speaks with so many people, and she remembered what Colombia was doing.
But Hillary, I get the sense that Hillary really, he listens to her.
Yes, definitely.
You listen to her?
Yes, yes. Because when you're here, Mike, the most important thing is sometimes I said that when you're elected to take decisions. And that's why you're elected here to the presidency or to any public office.
To take decisions.
That's right. So sometimes it's very tough. And sometimes the last person you could ask is your wife, saying, look, what do you think is good or bad? At the end, it's your own decision.
Of course.
But many of them, I talked to Nora to give she gave me a different sense many times that people that you have around. And that's why it's so important sometimes to share with her what's happening, what you're feeling, what's your sense, and I think that's the best advice, no? Because there's nothing bad or any tendency in the advice of your wife, of Nora saying, I think at the end is my decision, but it's good sometimes to have a real independent one.
This is really a stupid question I'm about to answer. So. This is really a foolish question. But there's an optimist, correct? He's an optimist. Mm-hmm. I sense a vibration that says that you are not as much an optimist as he.
The thing is, I think I am more realistic, you know?
More realistic
yes,
than he.
But I have become very optimistic living near to Andrés, but I am more realistic with things, you know? I get to a town where I see children starving without any education and everything, and I come and tell him, And he says, no, wait, we're going to do things for them. But I suffer as a mother, you know.
Yes.
I suffer as somebody that I know the everyday work of this mother with children and with the teachers with the children. And for me, I am a little bit more realistic, let's say, of what the poverty in Colombia
Realistic
and how
one. Not
people
once
are.
you say it is going seeing real things, not realistic and different.
No, I
Realistic,
understand,
yes,
but there's
because what
you have
happened is
you have the eyes of an optimist. She has the eyes that are
Somebody that thinks a little bit more.
well, conceivably not so much of an optimist.
But I said to Mike, imagine if I was a pessimistic in this.
No, that's true. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm a little bit more pessimistic than
There's
Andrés.
more sadness in your
Yes.
eyes than there
Yes.
is sadness.
And
You think
sometimes,
so?
Mike, is the way of the vision, no, of what you want, and sometimes it's difficult, and people want results many times. What happened to Nora and to many people is that you want results so quickly, and you have to have the whole scenario of what you're doing, because sometimes it's very difficult. And I think that, and that's something that with Nora we've been working. I said, we have fiscal problems. We have a deficit, 5.3% of the GNP. The only order I gave when I arrived here to the presidency is no cuts to social investment. Everything, do whatever you want. But in social investment, we need to maintain at least what we had. And that's what we're doing, because really, having all these problems, these economic problems, and getting money out of the poor of this country, that's the only thing I'm not going to allow. And that's why we're trying to create and putting more money in all these social problems.
Mrs. Pastrana, driving around Bogota, I had no idea that this is such, first of all, it's a beautiful city, but there is so much money here. When you hear about the fact that there is 20% unemployment and that there's a big recession going on, somebody has made an immense amount of money in the past to have these extraordinary homes, buildings.
Yes, I know. It's a big contrast, and I feel it when I work, when I go out to towns to see people suffering. But what I say is I always have very good friends. I trust in the government. I have the way of working with the government budget. But whenever I don't have it, I always help people to get their best, either through other NGOs, through other international organisms, because I want them to feel and to live a nice life, a human life.
Sure.
I feel I live well, my children are living well. I compare it with others. I try to teach my children since they're little the different ways of living. You live here in this place. Bring people home. And the little children, my little daughter, she has a beautiful heart, because the other day she says, Mom, I want to invite to the palace some street girls, because I used to work in an NGO that picks up street girls, and it's only, we have 2 or 3 NGOs that work for girls, because non-governmental, many work only for boys. So we brought the street girls into the palace, we make them a tour, she played with them, she gave them part of their toys, and she's only 3 years old. And I tried to make them feel, or to give what they have to others in life and in spirit.
When you read the manifesto of the FARC, the insurgents, the rebels, the guerrillas, you begin to understand that manifesto when you see so much wealth here at the top of the heap for the 2 or 3 or 4%, and so much poverty in this country.
Yes, that breaks my heart. It really does. It breaks my heart, but we're trying to do our best. We're trying to... It's very difficult to end the poverty in one of these countries. It's a big task. And I think that is one of the most important things,
And that's
why we're here, why we want to work for poor people. And that's the everyday, when you wake up, you say, this day has to be better, we have to find more things for people. It's never going to be the same. We're never going to be in this country equal, all living the same. But what we really want is social justice, and that's what the guerrilla wants.
But you know, Mike, that in the last years, I think middle class has been growing very much in Colombia. And unfortunately, these last 4 years, that's where we see that they're having more problem. Because if you go even outside of Bogota, that impressed me that you could see very small farms. People try to buy another home, so go on weekends. And they're not rich people. They're, you know, middle class people that we're growing and we're having a better way of life. And unfortunately, now we're having this recession. But I think the country was changing. For the first time, we were closing that gap between the rich and poor. And secondly, that's why I said to you before, social investment. That's where we need to invest, basically.
But Nora, if I may, says you understand the guerrillas and
Yes,
what's on their
I understand them. I understand why they ask for social justice, why they ask for education, for health, for their children, for food. You know, here in Colombia,
Of course.
many children, they eat at lunchtime and they come back to school without anything in their stomachs.
And
So
the
I
tragedy,
understand.
in a sense, is, of course, that they are supported,
Yes.
to some degree anyway, by the narco traffickers.
They're supported and they're
Their
very
country
well
can't
paid.
do it to them, for them.
Yes.
Their country can't do it for them, and so they have to depend upon the narco traffickers.
Paul's Wine, 4% of Colombia supports guerrilla. 4%.
4%?
Of Colombians support the guerrillas. Only 4%.
Well, what does that say?
That say that people, they don't want more violence. That they don't want their fight more in this country. We are all, and that's why I think the agenda was very important, because, okay, we said we will talk about political reform, agrarian reform, social reform. But why don't we sit on the table? Instead of killing us for the last 40 years, I think for the first time we have an agenda, and that's the most important thing. And I think that the real reaction of Colombians is saying, we don't want more violence. And that was the result of the march 2 weeks ago, saying, no more violence, no more kidnapping.
Peace.
We know that we have problems in Colombia, but why don't we sit as civilized people in a table and discuss these issues? And I think that that's something that is very important.
Well, I'm happy for you that you live with an optimist.
Well, you know, yesterday they gave me a diploma. They sent for the First Lady of Colombia the diploma of the optimistic.
Ah.
So they're beginning to think I am a very optimistic woman.
Change tapes, please.
You've got it. You don't want any more questions?
Yes, we do.
No, no, no,
Yes,
no.
we do.
No. Goes to nursery school in an armed convoy. That is the price of your being the First Lady of Colombia?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, we all go in an armed car full of people. This lack of liberty is something we hope to have again, you know, our liberty being a normal person. I tried to raise my children as normal kids, and
But a 3-year-old going in
Yes,
an armed convoy to kindergarten.
yeah, I know. She suffers a little bit at the beginning. She used to suffer. She didn't understand why she had so many people.
Yeah.
They went into the kindergarten almost. They stood outside her class with her. So I started to tell them, please treat her like a regular person. Be around the school, but not inside. And she sort of is getting accustomed. You know, you get accustomed to all those
But
things.
you know, Nora, so we said with Nora, Mike, that it's very important. It's unfortunate for us that our kids, they don't know freedom.
Yes,
They don't have the possibility, as you said, going on a bicycle on the streets as any children or any boy in the United States. And that's why we are committed on peace, because that's the country we want for them.
Yeah.
Because as you said, it's amazing that a 3-year-old is going in an armed car instead of being playing with dolls.
What were you going to
When we lived in Boston 1 year.
I know.
And the older were smaller. They were 5 years old and 3, let's say. And they were so happy because Santiago, when we came back, he says, are we going to go back to the United States? Because I would love to go and live 10 more years over there. He thought the period of 1 year he had been there was 10 years because he was free. He could go out in a bicycle, rolling skatings and everything.
Playing in the park.
And playing in the park, soccer and everything. But here it's very difficult. It's true.
It's not fair for them. It's
Yes.
not fair.
It's not.
No, one day when Santiago, at school, they had to show and tell, you know, they had
Yes.
this project of show and tell. And he wanted to take his father's bulletproof jacket to show it to the children at school. So it's a big contrast. It's very difficult to live like that.
Would you want your, truly, would you want your youngsters to be politicians? I'll
Well-
bet you don't want.
You know, I always analyze politics in a different way. If my children are going to be politicians and they're going to use politics for social benefit of people, I would like them to be in politics. If not, I will think it twice.
You are both devout Catholics, I'm told.
Yes.
Does that help?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It helps a
Definitely.
lot.
Oh, yes. I think so. Definitely.
We pray in family. We pray on Sundays. Every day we try to make a family prayer. And when he was kidnapped, boy, I prayed
yes.
a lot.
We
And
pray.
he prayed a lot also.
How do you sleep?
Not very well, you know.
That's why I'm asking the question, I understand. Because?
You never can take the country out of your head. You always have so many worries about what you're doing, about people, that it's very difficult to sleep completely sound asleep. It's very difficult.
You see what you've done to your wife?
Yeah.
You've made her
she
lose
has been,
sleep.
no, she has been very supportive, and I think that Nora has been for us. Because in politics, your wife is definitely your number one support.
Of course.
You imagine if she
But-
was
but-
against you, saying, don't be, and she knows it's difficult, you know. As Nora said, sometimes, you know, imagine when you're putting a bulletproof vest saying, look, I'm going to a rally, and what's going to happen, and a lot of, you know, all this type of information that you permanently have about what's going to happen to you, or any threats, but she has been very supportive, not only in politics, also as journalists, you know, also. You live it yourself, you know, being in the station early in the morning, going out at the end of the night, so it's difficult.
I always tell him he choose the right wife, because when I analyze his girlfriends and everything, I say he choose the right one.
Really?
You know, a big supported wife.
Tell me this. Is it a fact? I understand that when he took office as president, he said to you, quote, "It is my presidency and these are my ministers, so please don't bother them too much."
Well, yes.
True?
He sort of told me something like this, and I said, I'm not going to bother your ministers. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you in the social programs. I'm going to help you a lot. If I need to speak to them, I have to speak to them, because, you know, I'm working with education, health, social programs, I don't know.
You really
hunger
are
programs.
working.
I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm working, and I work, well, I don't work 24 hours because I have to sleep a little bit, but I really work a lot, and you know, sometimes it's incredible. I worry so much about my country that sometimes I forget about things I have to do with my children. Of course, I leave my time for my children, and it's a sacred moment.
Of course.
But you know, we have so many necessities outside of this palace that I worry a lot of other people, and more than I worry about me and my children sometimes, let's say. But I'm happy. Yes, it's a great, I'm happy. I'm happy about these 4 years, this opportunity you gave me, God gave us, and I'm happy about it.
You're a very fortunate man, aren't
Yes,
you?
definitely. Huh?
Cut. Yes?
Fabulous.
Okay.
Muy bien.
Up to you look back at me.